Now I want to talk about why we're raising funds. Our mission statement begins by saying, dedicated to the fusion of art and advocacy, we take literature beyond conventional spaces. What it actually means is, or what it alludes to, is that for 10 years now, we've been providing free expressive writing workshops in less conventional, less obvious spaces than the academic hemisphere of the greater Boston community. And we are aligned with partners in jails, shelters, behavioral health centers, addiction recovery programs, and youth agencies.
You know, there's a book that I really admire called The Real American Dream by Andrew Del Banco. And in that book, he says that we human beings need to organize the inchoate sensations amid which we pass our days, pain, pleasure, fear, into a story. And when that story leads us somewhere and helps us to navigate life through its inevitable terminus in death, it gives us hope. And if a sufficient number of people get a sustaining narrative, we call that a culture. And without a story, we become, in the words of Clifford Geertz, the anthropologist, a kind of formless monster with neither a sense of direction nor a sense of control, a chaos of vague emotions and spasmodic impulses.
List all of the benefits, but I'll list a few of them for you right now. That expressive writing can improve mood disorders, it can help reduce symptoms among cancer patients, it can benefit those that are recovering from a heart attack, it can reduce doctor visits, just generally, which is incredible, and it can even boost memory. And so I do want to just speak a little bit about the gold standard in medicine and the fact that this is something that was considered inconceivable before, that you might compare an arts intervention against a standard treatment recommended by federal agencies for something like PTSD. But in fact, this was done in August of last year, right here in Boston. The VA got 187 vets who had PTSD who were getting ready for treatment. The standard treatment is, one of the standard treatments is called prolonged exposure therapy. You can tell by the name, it takes a very long time to do this therapy, but it does work. They compared this head to head with an expressive writing protocol that was only 5 half-an-hour sessions. Lo and behold, they were equally effective. So both groups, the one that did expressive writing and the one that did PE, they both had benefits, they both improved, but the group that did the writing intervention, actually, they had better retention. And so what that means is they had fewer people dropping out of the program.
Because there's a correlation with the programs and the purpose for the programs. And Brendan Little, who was the director at the Mayor's Office for Recovery, said, "We hear a lot about the problem of painkillers in America." That was back in 2019. But the fundamental problem is pain in America. And that is not necessarily what's being addressed. And I think that, having noted in the editor's note of our most current journal, the highest rate of fatal overdoses that Boston has ever seen, and the highest national rate of suicide that this country has ever seen, there is a critical problem of pain, isolation, loneliness. We talk about addiction, we talk about mental health. It is not unique to under-resourced communities.
So President Kennedy felt that art was essential to a free society, and he said that our national strength matters, but the spirit that informs and controls that strength matters more, and that where power corrupts, poetry cleanses, and that art must serve as the touchstone of our fundamental human judgment.
In the past, the types of studies that have been done on expressive writing when it comes to resilience to trauma, we're really looking backward for folks that experienced the trauma in the past. But in 2021, during COVID, there was a study done during the trauma, while people were experiencing the trauma of COVID. And the expressive writing, which was actually just done online, so kind of the most accessible thing that you can do, significantly improved people's resilience, their depression symptoms, their perceived amount of stress, and their post-traumatic growth. So this was a more preliminary study, but it shows that this is such an exciting area to explore. Many folks who experience trauma it's not one and done. It's not in the rearview mirror. Oftentimes, life continues to throw challenges at you, and expressive writing, and Writers Without Margins knows this, is a modality that can allow you to be resilient through difficult circumstances.
There's a suppression of stories, of people's stories in our history. And I think that what you're doing has come at the most unbelievable time in American, not just broadcasting, but kind of, hearing each other. Because there are marginalized people and voices that have just refused to not be heard anymore. Me too. I can't breathe. We are hearing voices that we never used to hear because of the filters that we placed over them. This is worth your investment. This is something, you want to be a stakeholder in this. Now, you want to invest in this. It's going to reap so much for you in the area you're living in, and in humanity in general. So I'm just, congratulating everyone involved and encouraging you. This is the thing to do. And the voice, helping someone find their voice, there's nothing like it.